Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Music and Therapy Podcast with relationship coach Keana W. Mitchell. I am your host, Keana W. Mitchell. Guys, this week we are going to go back into the vault and listen to another episode that I did a while ago that talks about domestic violence. The reason we're going into the vault for this week and we went into the vault last week is because I am working on something really exciting that I'll tell you guys about sometime in September, probably the third week of September. And so I needed some extra time to work on that. But in the meantime, I didn't want to leave you without a podcast. And I wanted to make sure that you had a good episode. So what I did, I went back into the vault and I got an episode that we have not heard in a while. And this episode talks about domestic violence. Now, I do want to let you guys know that domestic violence does happen. And a lot of the times we're always talking about, well, they should leave. They should do this. They should do that. But what we don't realize is that when people are trying to leave and when people are asking for help, this is one of the most dangerous times for a victim of domestic violence. So it's important for us when we encourage them to leave to know what to do, what to say, and how to help them leave in a safe manner. So what I want to do before we even start the podcast, I want to give you guys a couple of numbers. So if you or someone you know is in a situation where there is domestic violence, I want to give you the phone number to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. If you call them, they will help you with planning, preparing to leave, and make sure that you are able to leave in a safe way. So that phone number is 1-800-799-7233. Once again, that phone number is 1-800-799-7233. They also have a number that you can text, and all you would need to do is text START, START, to 88788. And the way they have it is START is a capital S, then it's TART, all lowercase, to 88788. So hopefully this is some information or resources that you guys have if you're in this situation or if you know someone else is in the situation. All right, well, here's the episode of the podcast where I talked about how to leave an abusive relationship. I hope you enjoy it. And I will see you next week as we end out our communication series and talk about how to repair communication after a conflict. Today on the podcast, I would like to talk about how to know when you should end your relationship or your marriage. Now, I know that on the podcast, I'm always such an optimist about marriage. And it is my belief that marriage is something that you must continuously work on. And I also believe that no matter how bad your relationship is, that it can be saved and it can be salvaged if you and your spouse want to save the marriage. I do think that sometimes we give up on marriage too quickly instead of trying to work through the hard times in your relationship. And that marriage is about continual work. Notice I didn't just say work, like continual work, continual growth, continual self-assessment, and continual change. It is a forever commitment and not just something you decide to do for a little while. And then when things get hard, give up or do something else that's less challenging. Marriage is about being committed to love, being committed to forgiveness, being committed to do what you need to do to make things better in your relationship while still taking time out for yourself to grow, learn, and discover who you are. Marriage is all about evolving. And this and more is all wrapped up in one single relationship. Now, there are many reasons that couples decide that they want to get a divorce, and those reasons could be infidelity. Those reasons can be financial, lack of communication, inability to forgive, and the list goes on and on. But even with all of these issues, marriages can be worked on and saved. So even though one of these issues might be a reason for a divorce for one couple, another couple may be able to survive that particular issue. It just depends on the couple, the amount of work they're willing to put into the marriage, and it has a lot to do with the determination that the marriage is worth saving. All of this plays a huge role in whether or not the marriage will survive and thrive, or if the marriage will end. So, how and when do you know when enough is enough and when it's time to end your marriage? So, when should you stop trying to save a relationship? Now, these are some hard questions. They're difficult. And to be honest, I can't tell you exactly a time. but it just mostly depends on what you consider to be a deal breaker. So all of us go into relationships with deal breakers, or things that the person can do in the marriage that would end it and you would not try because that was a deal breaker. You can't move past that. All of us have things that we're willing to do, and all of us have things that we can forgive. So it just depends on what your deal breaker is for you and what you're willing to forgive in a relationship. There is, however, one thing that I'm going to say can happen in a relationship that will let you know that enough is enough. There's one thing that should be considered a deal breaker for all relationships. The thing that I'm talking about is abuse in your relationship. Abuse is never okay, and the person being abused should not stay with the abuser in an attempt to work on the relationship. Most of us know about physical abuse and we know about verbal abuse, but those are only two types of abuse. Did you know there are 5 types of abuse that takes place in a relationship? Yeah, 5. I didn't know about all 5. I just knew about 2. The same with I'm telling you about, like the physical abuse, verbal abuse, but there's 5 of them. So here are the 5 types of abuse. You do have physical abuse, which we know about. There's verbal abuse, when we know about. Did you know that control was a form of abuse? Emotional manipulation, and sexual abuse. Now, I think it's important for us to understand the different types of abuse because so many of us, when we think about abuse in a relationship, only think about domestic violence. And so we fail to recognize the signs of other types of abuse that could be taking place in our relationship. There are many people out there working hard to try to save their marriages or relationships and not even realize they're in an abusive relationship because they're not experiencing physical violence. Now, at a time when they should be saying that enough is enough and end the relationship, they are totally committed to an abusive relationship and they don't even know it. This is why it's important to understand all forms of abuse so that you will be aware if the relationship is worth saving or if you are in an abusive relationship. And if you find out that you are in an abusive relationship, you should definitely let that relationship go. I would never encourage anyone to stay in a relationship at the expense of your mental health or your self-esteem. So, let's talk a little bit about the characteristics of each type of abuse. Now, I'm going to start off with abuse you don't really hear about a lot. So, we're going to talk about control. There are many types of physical abuse that does not leave any type of bruises. Control is one of them. Any attempt to control a spouse's behavior, friends, finances, or activities is often the first sign of an abusive situation and may be a precursor to violence. Abusers tend to isolate their victims and chip away at their self-esteem until he or she becomes the only person in the victim's world. And notice I said he or she because let's just be real, abuse does not just happen to women. It happens to men as well. However, again, when it comes to men being abused, it is underreported because they are not going to report it because they're afraid of what people are going to say. There's a stigma around it. So abuse with men and males are completely underreported. So I'm just going to let guys know you could also be in an abusive situation. Abusers tend to isolate their victims and chip away at their self-esteem, which I said, until he or she becomes the only person in the victim's world. Control may be attempted by using threats, anger, or excessive criticism. Emotional manipulation. This is another form of psychological abuse and is the use of guilt, criticism, anger, or other manipulation to degrade the victim. The purpose may simply be to hurt him or her or to force compliance. Your spouse may play mind games. They'll attack your vulnerabilities, threaten to leave or withhold affection or approval as punishment. Repeated infidelity also falls under emotional abusive relationships. Verbal abuse. That is consistent demeaning, insulting, humiliating comments in public or in private that are incredibly damaging forms of verbal abuse. This includes telling hurtful jokes about you despite your discomfort and request to stop, name calling, swearing, insults, questioning your sanity, or ridiculing your opinion or your desires. Sexual abuse. Now, until recently, most people didn't think that sexual abuse occurred in a marriage because they're like, you're married, he or she can get sex whenever they want to, even if you say no. I remember being a kid and hearing about people on TV and women would say things like, my husband raped me. And I remember my aunts and some other people, they'd be like, how is that possible? Like, y'all are married. But you know what? It is possible because even in a marriage situation, if your spouse says they do not want to have sex, and they don't feel up to it that day or whenever, you cannot take it from them, because that is rape and that's sexual abuse. And so until recently, people were not aware that this even occurred within a marriage, and it was not even considered rape. Married victims of sexual abuse still face considerable stigma when coming forward with their sexual abusive relationships. Now, sexual abuse includes unwanted sex, it includes withholding sex, it includes forced engagement in any sexual activity that frightens or hurts the victim, and this refers to, and also refusing to practice safe sex practices or prevention from using birth control or making decisions about pregnancy and abortions. All of these are a form of sexual abuse. The next thing we're going to talk about is physical abuse. Now, if your partner has done anything to intentionally hurt you, it's critical that you remove yourself and your children from him or her immediately. In addition to beatings and chokings, pinning you down, spitting on you, abandoning you in difficult and dangerous situations, driving at high speed, or toying with dangerous situations to intimidate you, refusing to help you or withholding aid when you are sick, injured, or pregnant is also a sign of physical abuse. So if you are in any of these types of relationships, then I would advise you to let the relationship go, because this is not a safe environment or a healthy situation for you or your children to be in. Leaving an abusive relationship is always easier said than done. And I know when I was younger, you used to hear about women getting beat up, and I would say, why don't they just leave? And we have that. I'll admit, I said, why don't they just leave? Because I couldn't understand why you would stay in a situation when you were being abused. But there's so much that goes into this. No one talks about the psychological and emotional damage that has been done by the years or months of abuse. That can tear people down. And when that has happened, it's harder to leave. Many women find themselves in a situation where they may not have a place to go. Maybe they're not on good terms with their family and they have no help. They have no support system. They don't have money. Maybe the abuser has taken them away from safety to a different state, and they're living away from family. And like I said earlier, abusers try to control people. And so they've controlled them and have them isolate them from all their friends and family, and people who could help them, they really have nowhere to go. So it's easier to say, well, they should leave, but that may not always be something they can do at that moment, because it may not be an option, or it may not be something that they feel is an option at that time. Another thing that can stop people from leaving is that they may not have help. Now, I know we say there are a lot of programs out there, but I'm just going to tell you, I have worked with the state for many years, and we all think that there's a lot of programs out there, there's a lot of resources, but I'm just going to be honest and say, sometimes the resources that we think are available are not always available. Those resources, depending on the state and where you go, may not always be there. So that may not always be something that they can do. And so that is why it's easier to say that maybe they should leave, but there are just many things to consider that they may not be able to leave. Another reason they may not leave is that they may not recognize the abuse and think that it's a problem that they can work on, or think they can go to counseling to help fix the situation, because they don't realize they're in an abusive relationship. Maybe the person being abused may not have a place to live, like I said, if they left the abuser, and they could be fearful about the future and things in general, and not feel like they're able to take care of themselves and their kids if they left the abuser. So there are many reasons why people do not leave abusive relationships. So since leaving an abusive relationship is hard, here are some things that you can begin to do now if you need to leave an abusive relationship. The first thing that you need to do is make the decision. The first step is to recognize the abuse. So that is why I gave you guys all the 5 types of abuse in relationships and what the characteristics are, because if you are in an abusive relationship, the first step of getting out is to make the decision and recognize that you are in an abusive relationship. Now, you could be suffering from mental, physical, emotional, sexual, or financial abuse in your relationship. This is when you must take that decision to leave your partner without letting them have any clue. Your partner might beg and promise you that they'll become a better person, but most of the time they are quick to return to their abusive behavior once you've forgiven them. So please stick to your decision once you make a decision to leave. It's important when you're making this decision to get all of your important documents. Once you've decided on how to get out of the abusive relationship, you must take all the necessary steps. Gather pictures, audio, video recordings as concrete evidence of your abuse. Keep a hidden journal of all the violent incidents, noting date, time, and place. Visit the doctor in case of any severe injuries because medical documentation will prove to be further evidence. The proof will come in handy against the abuser in court, winning custody of your kids, or providing residence and protection after you leave your partner. Have an escape plan. Always keep a backup plan in case you need to leave in a life-threatening situation. So practice your escape plan so you know exactly what to do. Keep an escape bag handy at all times, which has all the essential items including emergency cash, clothing, toiletries, keys, ID cards, security cards, etc. Also, memorize the phone numbers of trusted contacts so you can inform them of the situation immediately. Hide the stuff maybe at a friend's house or in a place where you know your partner cannot find it. Be financially dependent. Since you're going to leave your partner at any time, make sure that you gather enough cash so that you will be able to leave. While you're doing this, acquire job skills or take courses that you may have a source of income in case you leave. And if the abuser controls your finances, just try to save whatever amount you can, stash it in your escape bag, and try to leave. Being financially independent will make life easier for you. However, if you are not able to do this, I don't want you to stay in a relationship saying, I'm waiting to get financially independent before I need to leave. No, sometimes you may just need to leave. And here's the thing, you know how we are talking about how you can save money and be financially independent. But sometimes if that is not an option for you, there are many other ways that you can leave. You just have to be resourceful. Maybe you have a friend who can let you stay with them for a while. Maybe somebody can loan you some money until you get a job and get back on your feet. There are many ways to be resourceful. So if you're unable to save because your husband, partner, or abuser controls the finances, do what you have to do to get the money that you need to get. And you can still leave that way. Safeguard your privacy. It's highly probable that your abuser suspects that you want to leave. This is why he or she will take all measures possible to keep an eye on you and your activities. To keep your conversations private, what you can do is purchase another cell phone and keep it hidden at all times. Change your passwords and always clear your web history. Check your smartphone settings because your partner may have set up apps to read your messages or record your phone calls. And never let anyone invade into your personal space. Now, I had a friend who this actually happened to. Her husband put trackers on a lot of her devices so that he could know what she was doing and where she was trying to go when she was trying to leave. So make sure you take precautions, guard your privacy, make sure the abuser does not know what your steps are because they probably have an idea that you may be trying to leave, but you need to make sure that you guard your privacy so that they don't have a clue when or if you're actually trying to leave them. Alert your close family and friends. So it's important to inform your family members and trusted friends who can provide you with constant support against the abusive behavior of your partner. Share every incident with them so they can be witnesses for the abuse you face. Moreover, they can also provide you shelter and financial support. It'll just make you realize that you will always have someone who cares for you. And please make sure you get counseling. Being in an abusive relationship can leave you feeling emotionally drained. So this is why you must undergo proper counseling to learn how to get out of this emotionally abusive relationship. Now, your therapist will be able to assist you in fighting anxiety and depression. Counseling will provide necessary guidance for acquiring separation, and contact the domestic violence helpline to learn about how to get out of an abusive relationship. Now, once you leave, you may need protection. So what you can do is keep yourself safe from the abuser, as it is important after you've left the relationship, especially now that you've left. So keep the abuser away from you. Block them on social media. I would even say go as far as to maybe get a different social media account, different name, whatever. Change your housing address and switch schools for your children. It is advisable to also get a restraining order. Life may be hard in the start, but you will learn to move on. So the first taste of this air of freedom will satisfy you thoroughly. Live your life beautifully and become the person that you deserve to be. So this is what you can do if you are in an abusive relationship. Now, if you know someone who's in an abusive relationship and they want to leave, this is what you can do to help get them out of that relationship. Now, it's not always going to be easy because I've known people who were abused and I would tell them, you have to leave. I'll help this, that, or the other, but they didn't leave because of the reasons that I mentioned. So if you know someone who is in an abusive relationship and they want to get out, here's how you can help them get out. Give them financial support and emotional support so that they can trust you in an emergency. Such people tend to become more sensitive, so don't force them to share details. Give them space, but counsel them to leave the abusive relationship and let them know that you are there for them. And that's the key. We have to let people know that we are there for them. We can't force people to do what we want them to do, even if it is in their best interest. It's not going to work. All we can do is be there for them and let them know that we care. Keep in contact with them to make sure that they're safe and that they're okay. And let them know that if they ever need anything, you are there to help them with whatever they're going through. Always remember, abuse is not okay. It's never okay. And that you did nothing, absolutely nothing to make this happen. Nor do you deserve this type of treatment. You're very strong. And today is the day for you to say that enough is enough if you're in an abusive relationship. Today is the day for you to take the necessary steps to leave that relationship. So if you're in an abusive relationship, I would encourage you, strongly encourage you to get out. Now, in the show notes today, I do have the phone number to the domestic violence hotline. So if anyone needs to call, or if you know someone who's in an abusive relationship and they need to get in contact with someone to figure out how to leave, the number to the National Domestic Violence hotline is there. And listen, even if it's not domestic violence, any type of abuse, you can call for that, okay? So make sure you do that if you are in an abusive relationship and if you need to get out of an abusive relationship, or if you know someone who's in an abusive relationship. Now, the song that we're going to listen to today is called Walk Away. And the song is about a woman who is in an abusive relationship and is being encouraged to leave. Here is the song, Walk Away.
He hits you almost every day. You're so afraid of what he'll say. You try your best to make him smile, but your efforts are not enough. There's always something you did wrong. Left the light on or you forgot to call. He tears down your self-esteem till you forgot you were a queen. Oh, walk away. Oh, walk away. Oh, walk away. Sometimes you gotta walk away. Oh, walk away. Oh, walk away. Oh, walk away. Sometimes you gotta walk away. You are so dependent on him. You're isolated, it's just you and him. He's trying to keep you from doing things that you like to do. There's always something you did wrong. Left the light on or you forgot to call. He tears down your self-esteem till you forgot you were a queen. Oh, walk away. Oh, walk away. Oh, walk away. Sometimes you gotta walk away. Oh, walk away. Oh, walk away. Oh, walk away. Sometimes you gotta walk away.
Before I end the podcast, I would like to thank you so much for being here with me today. I absolutely love hanging out with you each week, and it's always a pleasure to spend time with you. If you love the podcast as much as I love spending time with you, I encourage you to share this week's episode with a friend or family member, and make sure that you like and follow the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. I will also love it if you will leave a review for the podcast so you can let me know how much you are enjoying the show. Because I am so thankful to you guys, I am going to be giving away a free gift. I understand that being married can be difficult and stressful at times. So if you are looking for a way to stop arguing and resolve issues in your marriage, then click the link below in the show notes to download your free PDF about how to solve problems in your marriage. If you would like to contact me, feel free to contact me on social media by clicking the links in the show notes, and I promise you that I will respond to your message. Well, I think that's all for now, so until next week, have an amazing day and a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye.